Chapter 1. The Mind That Rewrites Itself. There are moments in life when something inside us whispers, quietly, persistently, that the reality we see is not the whole story. A feeling, faint but unmistakable, that the mind itself is not fixed, that it bends, breathes, and reshapes the world around it like clay in the hands of a silent sculptor. Science calls it neuroplasticity. The ancients called it the art of rebirth. But beyond every name lies the same mystery, the mind's hidden ability to rewrite its own code, to awaken, and to transform the matter that contains it. It begins not with grand experiments or miracles, but with something far simpler, a thought. A thought that refuses to fade, that insists on existing long enough to change the shape of the brain that conceived it. Every idea, every emotion, every whisper of imagination leaves a trace in the invisible map of our neurons, redrawing paths, creating bridges, dissolving walls. The mind is not a machine. It is a living sea, and each wave of experience leaves its signature on the depths. In a quiet laboratory in Geneva, a group of researchers once placed small sensors across the scalp of a monk who had meditated every day for 40 years. When he closed his eyes, something extraordinary appeared on the screen. Not chaos, not stillness, but a perfect rhythm of electrical light. His brain was no longer reacting to the world, it was creating it. Each pulse, each flicker of activity, corresponded to a different state of consciousness. The mind, they realized, could sculpt itself through attention, focus, and awareness. Every second spent in silence was like a brushstroke of light across the living canvas of the brain. The monk opened his eyes and smiled. He said softly, "The brain is not a prison, it is a door." And in that moment the scientists understood, perhaps for the first time, that the limits they had been studying were not the limits of the brain, but the limits of their imagination. Ancient texts spoke of this same revelation in their own language. The Egyptian priests called it Hika, the divine power to shape reality through conscious intent. In the Vedic temples of India, the sages described Mana Shakti, the energy of the mind that can move mountains within the self. And in the scrolls of the alchemists, written in symbols and riddles, one phrase appeared again and again: Imaginatio Vera. True imagination transforms matter. These were not metaphors for the dreamers. They were instructions, encoded in poetry, for those who dared to look inward long enough to see that thought itself is substance, and that substance is thought asleep. You and I, every day, live in a field of our own creation. Each emotion vibrates like a color through the nervous system. Each memory rearranges the patterns of light in our brain, and every act of awareness reshapes the very structure that allows awareness to exist. That is the great paradox of being human. We are both the sculptor and the stone. We carve ourselves with the tools of perception, and what we call reality is nothing more than the sculpture we have agreed to see. But there is a deeper level, a quiet place beneath the surface of the mind where the clay has not yet hardened, where the brain is soft and luminous like a dawn not yet formed. There, all transformation begins. To reach that place, you must do one thing. Listen. Sit in silence for a moment. Breathe. Notice the pulse in your temples, the rhythm of your breath, the quiet hum of existence beneath every sound. That hum, subtle, eternal, is the language of the mind rewriting itself. It doesn't speak in words, but in movement. Every calm breath tells your cells we are safe. Every moment of gratitude tells your neurons, this is worth remembering. And every image of peace that you hold within you becomes a bridge of light between the conscious and the unseen. In that space, healing begins. Not as a miracle, but as a return. The return of the mind to its natural state, fluid, radiant, awake. The mind that rewrites itself is the artist of time. It reshapes memory and expectation, dissolving the weight of what was and opening doors to what can be. Each day, each thought, each heartbeat, you are reprogramming the cosmos that lives within you. For the universe is not out there. It begins here, in the electric silence between two thoughts. And once you glimpse that silence, once you feel that the brain is not a cage but a cathedral of light, you begin to see what the ancients always knew, that creation and consciousness are one and the same. Chapter 2. The Hidden Architects of Thought. Every thought you have ever had still exists somewhere. They do not vanish into the air as we imagine. They ripple outward, weaving invisible patterns in the vast field of your consciousness. You may forget them, but they do not forget you. They are the hidden architects of your life. They build the bridges you cross, the rooms you live in, the faces you meet. They design the unseen architecture of every moment, forming the delicate structure of your destiny. Most of the time, you do not see their hands. They work in silence, beneath the surface of awareness, laying down blueprints for the world you will one day call real. And yet, if you listen closely enough, in the pause between two thoughts, in the breath before a decision, you can feel their presence arranging the geometry of your reality. Long before science gave the mind its modern vocabulary, ancient mystics understood that thought is a builder. They described it not as a process, but as a living being, an architect of energy that shapes the invisible substance of life. In the temples of Luxor, the priests of Ptah spoke of Ka, the creative double of the human being, the unseen self that mirrors every action, every emotion, every idea. They said the Ka worked tirelessly, day and night, constructing the landscape of the soul. In India, the Vedic seers called it Manaskara, the mental craftsman, the subtle force that molds the mind's clay into experience. In Greece, the philosophers whispered of nous, the inner intelligence that arranges chaos into cosmos. Each tradition pointed toward the same secret, that the world you perceive is not separate from you. It is the reflection of the builders inside you. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine your thoughts as beams of light moving through an infinite space. Each beam touches another, forming shapes, patterns, and structures. At first they seem random, flickers, fragments, sparks. But look again, and you begin to see order emerging. Every emotion you've ever felt has left a mark here, a color, a tone, a vibration. Fear leaves shadows, gratitude leaves warmth, love creates spirals of pure gold. This is your mental architecture, the palace of light that your consciousness inhabits. And like any structure, it can be rebuilt. Every time you think with intention, every time you choose love over fear, you are altering the foundation stones of this palace. You are an architect, repairing the invisible home of your soul. There was once a story told among the alchemists of a city built entirely from thoughts. Its towers were made of music, its streets of memory, its rivers of emotion. It shimmered in and out of existence depending on the clarity of those who entered it. If your mind was turbulent, the city dissolved. If your heart was still, it appeared, radiant, perfect, alive. They called it civitas mentis, the city of the mind. They said it existed within every human being, and that to walk through its gates was to know oneself completely. Only those who mastered their thoughts could enter and not be lost. For the architects within, those silent forces, answered only to clarity, not chaos. What are these architects really? They are the patterns of consciousness that you have trained through your attention. Every belief you have ever held is one of them. Every recurring emotion is one of them. Every image of yourself, strong or weak, worthy or unworthy, is one of their constructions. The more attention you give them, the stronger they become. The more you neglect them, the more they fade. And like builders awaiting instruction, they wait for your next command. When you say, "I can stat," they construct a wall. When you say, "I will," they build a bridge. When you say, "I am," they raise a temple. The hidden architects respond not to words, but to vibration. They understand feeling, not grammar. You may tell yourself you want joy, but if your inner vibration is fear, they will continue to build from the blueprint of fear. So the key is not to force your mind, but to tune it. Like an instrument, it resonates with what it believes to be true. If you wish to change the song, you must change the tuning. You must align thought, emotion, and breath into a single harmony, for that harmony is the architect's command. When you reach that coherence, the builders within you awaken. They begin to reconstruct your inner world, not from effort, but from resonance. There is a silence deeper than meditation, a stillness in which the hidden architects stop building and simply listen. In that silence, your truest intention arises, pure and luminous. It has no words, no desire, only presence. And from that presence, the next pattern of your life begins to unfold. In that moment, you understand. Creation is not an act of doing, but an act of being. The architects of thought are not your servants. They are your reflection. When you align with peace, they build peace. When you align with clarity, they build clarity. When you align with love, they build a world where love is the law of gravity. You are never at the mercy of your mind. You are its composer, its architect, its dreamer. Every idea, every breath, every silent choice is a line in the blueprint of your universe. The hidden architects are waiting, ready to build whatever design you choose next. So choose wisely and choose consciously. For in the end, what you think is what you become, and what you become is the world itself. Chapter 3. The Language of Light. There is a language older than words. It does not speak through sound, nor through symbols carved in stone. It moves through light, a silent conversation between your consciousness and the universe. Every sunrise whispers it across the horizon. Every flicker of a candle repeats it in miniature. Every spark within your neurons translates it into thought, memory, and imagination. This language is not learned, it is remembered. It is the first language your soul ever knew, the language of light. When you close your eyes and sink into stillness, you begin to see it, not with sight, but with presence. It begins as a shimmer behind the eyelids, a faint pulse of radiance, a breath made visible. Stay there. Breathe into it. Do not chase it. Allow it to unfold. It grows layer upon layer until your inner vision becomes a vast ocean of color and motion. Gold streams into violet, indigo melts into white. These are not hallucinations. They are the living syntax of creation itself. Light is not just energy, it is information, and information is consciousness made visible. The ancient mystics spoke of this. In Egypt, they called it Raku, the light intelligence of the soul. In India, the Vedic seers named it Jawati, the flame that never dies. The Kabbalists described it as Or Ein Sof, the infinite light from which all forms arise. They said that every thought is a modulation of this light. Every emotion, a shift in its hue. Every prayer, a ray bending back toward its source. To speak the language of light is to remember that you are not inside the light is inside you. Imagine for a moment that your body is made of crystal, transparent, radiant, resonant. Every cell glows softly, responding to the music of your breath. Every organ vibrates in harmony with your thoughts. When you think in fear, the light dims. When you think in love, the light expands. When you release judgment, it shines clear and pure. The body is the instrument. The light is the song. And the song is always playing, even when you forget to listen. Scientists speak of photons, tiny messengers of energy, but the mystics knew them as the syllables of the divine. They believe that light carries memory, that within every photon is a trace of the original fire that began the universe. That same fire burns within you. When you dream, when you imagine, when you create, you are translating light into form. Every idea you've ever had was first a flicker in this luminous language, a spark crossing the neural sky of your mind. But few ever learn to listen to the light. We are trained to hear words, not frequencies, to see objects, not the glow that connects them. We walk through a world alive with messages, yet only the heart can read them, because the heart, not the brain, is the first translator of light. It beats in rhythm with the cosmic pulse, that same rhythm that shaped galaxies, that same rhythm that whispered your name before you were born. When your heart and mind are in harmony, you begin to perceive reality not as matter, but as melody. Try this. Breathe deeply. Imagine a thread of golden light entering through the crown of your head. Let it descend through your spine, flowing into every nerve, every cell. As it moves, it speaks, not in words but in feelings, vibrations of peace, warmth, and knowing. This is the silent teaching. That light does not ask to be believed. It only asks to be felt. For when you feel it, it remembers itself through you. In the monasteries of the Himalayas, monks have long practiced what they call tummo, the inner fire meditation. They visualize a flame at the base of the spine and feed it with breath. The flame rises through the body, melting fear, dissolving thought, awakening clarity. The ancient texts say that the flame becomes so real that the practitioner's body warms the surrounding air. But the true heat is not physical. It is the warmth of consciousness returning to its source. The fire is not consumed. It is transformed into light. In forgotten chambers beneath the sands of Luxor, priests once practiced the rite of Ray, a ritual of light transmutation. They would sit in total darkness for 40 days, until their inner sight awakened. They learned to see without eyes, to listen without ears, to know without words. When they emerged, their skin shone faintly, their presence radiant. They had become living conduits of the solar mind, not worshippers of the sun, but expressions of it. The language of light had rewritten their biology. But you need not sit in stone chambers to hear this language. Every sunrise is a scripture, every candle a teacher, every spark in your neurons a syllable of the same divine poem. Light is not out there. It is the mirror of your awareness. It bends, reflects, refracts, and dances according to the geometry of your thoughts. If your mind is still, the light forms mandalas of perfection. If your mind is chaotic, the light fractures into distortion. Thus the secret, clarity of thought is clarity of light. And when your inner light grows clear, something extraordinary happens. You begin to perceive the light in others, not their faces, not their words, but the subtle radiance behind their eyes, the spark of the same infinite source. You realize that communication was never meant to be verbal. It was meant to be luminous. Every gesture, every glance, every silence is light speaking to light. When you truly see someone, you are reading the story written in their photons. a language without translation, yet instantly understood by the soul. The great sages said, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was light." But the true meaning is deeper. The Word was not speech, it was vibration, the first pulse of consciousness echoing through the void. You are an echo of that vibration. You are light, remembering its own brilliance. To live in alignment with that truth is to live illuminated, not by outer sun or artificial flame, but by the radiant intelligence that breathes through every atom of your being. So tonight, when you close your eyes, do not seek silence. Seek light. Let it rise in you like dawn over an inner horizon. Let it speak through warmth, through stillness, through wonder. Let it remind you that all wisdom, all healing, all creation is written in this language, waiting for you to remember how to read it. And when you open your eyes again, you will not see the same world. You will see a world made of light, and you will understand that it was your heart translating it all along. Chapter 4. The Geometry of the Soul. Beneath every heartbeat, beneath every breath, there is a pattern, a design older than time. It is not random. It is not chaos. It is geometry, the secret architecture of your soul. Every cell, every neuron, every thought follows this hidden design, but a divine mathematics that connects the invisible to the visible. And when you begin to perceive it, you realize that the universe was never made of matter. It was woven from pattern, rhythm, and proportion. Imagine a drop of water falling into a still pond. Rings form and expand outward, perfectly symmetrical. Now imagine millions of such drops, each one creating waves, each wave intersecting with another, until a web of harmony fills the surface. This is you. This is your energy, your thought, your presence, ripples in the living water of existence. The way you think, the way you love, the way you breathe, creates geometry in this field. You are drawing your soul with invisible lines. Long before telescopes or microscopes, the ancient mystics spoke of sacred geometry, the blueprint of creation. The Egyptians saw it in the proportions of their temples, the Greeks in the spiral of a shell, the Indians in the petals of a lotus, the Mayans in the orbit of Venus. They knew that everything that exists follows the same ratios, the same harmonies. As above, so below. As within, so without. They believed the human soul itself was a reflection of these divine proportions, a living mandala of infinite precision. In that geometry lies a secret. Your emotions are frequencies. Your thoughts are shapes. Your choices are movements within the grand pattern. When you feel joy, your inner geometry expands. Spirals of light, unfolding like blooming flowers. When you feel fear, the pattern contracts, folding inward, tightening upon itself. When you feel love, the geometry becomes radiant. Its symmetry perfect, its rhythm infinite. The soul speaks through this silent mathematics. It does not use words. It uses form. In the monasteries of Tibet, monks meditate upon mandalas, not as symbols but as living maps of the mind. They believe that to gaze upon a mandala is to gaze into oneself. Each circle, each triangle, each color corresponds to a state of consciousness. When the mandala is complete, they destroy it, brushing the sand away into flowing rivers. For they understand, geometry is not meant to be possessed, but experienced. The perfection is not in the drawing. It is in the act of alignment. To live in harmony with the geometry of your soul is to live in rhythm with the cosmos. Your heart beats in the same tempo as distant stars. Your breath rises and falls with the tides of the sea. Your thoughts spiral in the same dance as galaxies turning in silence. You are not separate from the universe. You are its echo, its reflection, its sacred equation. In the hidden schools of Alexandria, the followers of Pythagoras studied what they called arithmos theos, divine number. They believed that every emotion, every event, every destiny could be expressed as a geometric proportion between the human and the infinite. When they meditated, they did not pray in words. They prayed in numbers, in angles, in tones. Their prayer was music, their worship was harmony. They said that when a person sits, mind and heart fall into the correct ratio, a precise balance of reason and feeling, the soul begins to resonate with the music of the spheres. In that resonance, healing happens naturally. No medicine, no miracle, only harmony restored. You may think this is poetry, but your body knows it as truth. Your heart does not beat randomly, it beats in fractal patterns. Your breath moves in golden ratios. Even the structure of your DNA spirals in the same proportion as the galaxies that circle the void. You are made of sacred geometry. You have simply forgotten how to feel its rhythm. Try this. Sit in silence. Place one hand upon your chest and one upon your abdomen. Begin to breathe slowly, deeply, evenly. Now imagine that your breath draws a spiral of golden light through your body. On each inhale, the spiral ascends. On each exhale, it descends. Let the two movements meet in the heart, the center of your inner mandala. You may begin to sense it, a quiet pulse, a subtle rotation, a feeling of being drawn inward toward infinite balance. Stay there. You are aligning with the geometry of your soul. When you live in that alignment, life becomes effortless. Coincidences multiply. Synchronicities appear as if the universe were listening, because it is. You are no longer fighting against the pattern. You are flowing within it. Decisions arise naturally. Paths open where before there were walls. People appear as if summoned by invisible design. It is not magic. It is mathematics written in light. There is an ancient legend that says, before the soul incarnates, it gazes into a pool of pure geometry, a crystalline mirror reflecting all possible lives. The pattern it chooses determines its lessons, its gifts, its path. When you feel lost, when you forget who you are, the soul does not punish you. It simply waits for you to remember your pattern, because once you remember, you cannot be lost again. The geometry of the soul is not fixed. It evolves as you do. Each act of kindness expands it. Each act of awareness refines it. Each act of forgiveness perfects its symmetry. And when you love, truly love, it becomes luminous, an unfolding mandala of divine proportion, infinite in both simplicity and complexity. That is the true alchemy of being, to take the raw chaos of experience and shape it into art. In the end, geometry is not about circles or triangles. It is about relationship. The relationship between you and yourself, between self and others, between the finite and the eternal. Every connection you make, every choice you honor, every truth you embody, redraws the pattern of your soul. And when that pattern reaches harmony, you no longer search for the divine. You realize you are the divine pattern all along, speaking itself into form. When you close your eyes tonight, imagine your soul as a vast cathedral made of light. Arches of gold, domes of silver, stained glass windows glowing with every memory of love you've ever lived. You walk through it slowly, and in the silence you hear it, the faint music of geometry itself, a chorus of proportion and grace, singing the truth. You have always known that your soul was not born into the universe. The universe was born within your soul. Chapter 5. The Alchemy of Emotion. There is a fire that burns beneath every heartbeat. You may not always feel it, but it shapes every thought, every choice, every dream. It is called emotion, energy in motion, but the secret current that animates all life. For most, it is a tide that rises and falls without control. But for those who learn its laws, emotion becomes alchemy. The power to transform darkness into gold, fear into freedom, pain into wisdom, and sorrow into light. The ancient masters spoke of this fire often. They said that every emotion is an element. Joy is air's light, expanding, rising. Sadness is water, deep, dissolving, cleansing. Anger is fire, fierce, consuming, purifying. Fear is earth, heavy, grounding, restraining. But beyond all elements lies a fifth essence. Spirit, the invisible breath that turns emotion into transformation. Emotion, they taught, is not something to be escaped, but something to be refined. For within the raw substance of every feeling lies a hidden purity, waiting to be revealed through awareness. Imagine a chalice of molten gold, glowing in the center of your chest. Each time you feel an emotion, a drop of that feeling falls into the chalice. If you judge it, it burns chaotically, flaring and fading in smoke. But if you accept it, if you breathe and watch it without resistance, it begins to clarify. The flame stabilizes, the gold brightens, and slowly what once felt like pain becomes light. This is the first law of emotional alchemy. What you resist persists. What you embrace transforms. The alchemists of Alexandria knew this truth. They wrote that the outer transmutation of metals was only a mirror of an inner process. The true philosopher's stone was not a mineral. It was the human heart made pure through experience. Their laboratories were metaphors. Their furnaces were souls. They believed that when the heart burns with awareness, it releases its hidden gold, compassion, clarity, and strength beyond measure. They said, lead becomes gold when the heart forgives. Forgiveness, that most misunderstood of powers, it is not forgetting. It is remembering differently. It is the moment when emotion ceases to be a wound and becomes wisdom. When you forgive, you do not erase the past. You rewrite it in light. Every emotion you've ever felt becomes part of that rewrite. Anger becomes courage. Fear becomes sensitivity. Grief becomes love that no longer needs an object. This is the secret work of the inner alchemist. In the temples of Tibet, monks practiced a meditation known as Tonglen, the alchemy of compassion. They would breathe in the suffering of others as dark smoke and exhale light back into the world. Over time, the darkness no longer frightened them. They learned that pain is only unrefined light, seeking its way home. This is the second law of emotional alchemy. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. Close your eyes for a moment. Think of an emotion that has been living inside you, perhaps fear, resentment, grief, or longing. Now imagine holding it gently in your hands, as if it were a small sphere of fire. Do not recoil from its heat. Watch how it burns. Notice its color, its rhythm, its pulse. As you breathe slowly, say to it within yourself, I see you, I accept you, I thank you, and something begins to shift. The flame changes hue, from red to orange, from orange to gold, from gold to white. It softens, it warms instead of burns, and suddenly you realize the fire was never meant to hurt you. It was meant to awaken you. In the writings of the Hermetic sages, emotion was described as prima materia, the raw substance of transformation. They warned that one cannot reach light without first descending into shadow. To avoid emotion is to avoid evolution. They compared it to the process of distillation. Boil away the impurities of fear and judgment, and what remains is pure essence, clear, fragrant, alive. Your tears are part of that distillation. Every one you shed refines the heart. There is a secret chamber in the human heart that only opens through sorrow. You may resist it, but when it breaks, something sacred flows out, a tenderness beyond comprehension. This tenderness is not weakness, it is power, the kind that can move worlds. Because when your heart breaks open, that no longer fears the breaking of others, it becomes vast enough to hold all suffering and still remain light. That is the third law of emotional alchemy. Your vulnerability is your strength. In the golden deserts of Egypt, the priests of Hathor practiced the art of joy. They believed that laughter was the highest vibration of the soul, not the laughter of mockery, but the laughter of awakening, the moment you realize the divine comedy of existence. For when you laugh with true presence, you dissolve illusion, you burn through heaviness. You remember that even pain is part of the cosmic dance. They taught that joy was not pleasure, it was the natural radiance of the soul freed from resistance. So when sadness comes, do not push it away. When anger rises, do not suppress it. When love overwhelms, do not fear it. Let each emotion reveal its teaching. For emotion is the language of the soul, its grammar made of energy, its vocabulary written in sensation. And once you learn to read it, life becomes a sacred text, each feeling a verse in your unfolding scripture. There is no bad emotion. There is only energy in different states of refinement. Fear, when purified, becomes awareness. Anger, when purified, becomes determination. Jealousy, when purified, becomes admiration. Sorrow, when purified, becomes depth. Every shadow hides a seed of light. The alchemist's task is not to destroy the shadow, but to bring it home. And one day, after years or lifetimes of inner work, you may find that emotions no longer control you, not because you have suppressed them, but because you have become them all. You will feel anger as fire and know it as love in disguise. You will feel sadness as water and know it as compassion being born. You will feel fear as earth and know it as the foundation of courage. You will feel joy as air and know it as freedom itself. Then, and only then, you will understand the great secret. The alchemist and the flame were never two. You were always the fire, learning to remember itself as light. Chapter 6. The Mirror of Time. There is a mirror that no one can touch, a mirror that reflects not your face, but your becoming. It has no frame, no glass, no silver surface, for it is made of memory, and it floats in eternity. You look into it each time you dream, each time you remember, each time you wonder who you truly are. This is the mirror of time. It does not show what is, but what has been, what could be, and what still waits for your awareness to arrive. Time, the great illusionist. It convinces you that it moves forward, that moments march like soldiers, one after another. But time does not walk. It unfolds. It is not a river you float upon, but an ocean in which all waves coexist. Every past you've lived, every future you might create, already shimmer in its depths. You are not traveling through time. You are awakening through it. Each instant you call now is a doorway opening into infinite directions. Imagine standing in a hall of mirrors. Every reflection is a version of you, Some smiling, some grieving, some radiant, some lost. You might think they are your past and future selves, but they are all happening in one grand moment. Is cosmic simultaneity too vast for ordinary sight? The soul sees them all at once. It knows that time is simply the dance of perception. To remember is to look backward. To imagine is to look forward. To awaken is to see that there was never backward or forward, only the eternal now. The sages of India spoke of this as Kala, the living time that breathes and folds upon itself. The Egyptians called it Zep Tepi, the first time, a moment that never truly ended, still echoing through every heartbeat of existence. The mystics of Greece described it as awaken, the timeless eternity within which chronological time is merely a shadow. Each tradition tried to tell us the same secret, that time is not the jailer of the soul, but its mirror, and the reflection it offers depends on what you bring to it. When you gaze into the mirror of time with regret, you see loss. When you gaze into it with gratitude, you see learning. When you gaze into it with love, you see eternity smiling back. Because the mirror does not show what happened. It shows what you believe about what happened. Change the belief, and the image shifts. This is the hidden art of temporal alchemy, but to rewrite the past by changing the consciousness of the present. Every memory you hold is not fixed. It is fluid, alive, luminous. The brain does not store moments like photographs. It stores frequencies, patterns of emotion and meaning. Each time you recall one, you edit it with your current vibration. You are constantly reweaving your past without realizing it. What you remember is not the event. It is your present self visiting that event, changing its color with new light. Try this. Close your eyes. Recall a moment that once caused you pain. See it as clearly as you can. The place, the sound, the feeling. Now imagine that your present self, wise, compassionate, luminous, steps into that scene. You are not there to erase it. You are there to embrace it. Touch your younger self on the shoulder. Whisper, you survived this. You grew from this. You are free now. Watch how the memory changes. Its edges soften. Its weight dissolves. The air brightens. The past is rewritten, not by denial, but by love. You have just altered your timeline. The mystics called this sacred revision. They believed that by healing memory, you heal destiny, because your future is built from the architecture of your past. And when the foundation is cleansed, the structure becomes luminous. Every act of forgiveness changes the geometry of your timeline. Every moment of compassion sends ripples through centuries of thought. Every breath taken in awareness rewrites history in the language of light. The ancient Hermetists said, "Time is the child of motion, and motion is the shadow of mind." In other words, time moves because consciousness chooses to experience itself in sequence. But consciousness itself is timeless. It sees all possible outcomes like stars scattered across a single sky. When you shift your awareness, you do not move through time. You change the angle at which you are viewing eternity. In meditation, you may have felt this. The moment when minutes vanish and hours collapse into one shining presence. That is the true nature of time, not linear but luminous. When you reach that stillness, you touch eternity, and eternity, once touched, changes how you move through every second that follows. You no longer chase the future. You no longer flee the past. You walk through both, like a lucid dreamer, awake inside your own creation. In some esoteric schools, disciples were taught to visualize their lives as golden threads, woven through a vast tapestry of light. Each thought was a thread, each emotion a color. The past was not behind them. It was beneath them, supporting every step. The future was not ahead, it was above, descending like starlight. And in the center of it all, the heart, the weaver stead's hand. When the heart moves with clarity, the pattern becomes radiant. When the heart moves in fear, the weave tangles. But no thread is ever wasted. Even the knots become part of the design. Sometimes you will meet people and feel, I have known you before. You are not imagining it. You are recognizing a resonance, a reflection across timelines. The soul carries memory, not in years, but in vibration. And when two vibrations harmonize, they collapse time between them. That instant of recognition, that flash of familiarity, is the mirror of time showing you your own reflection in another. So do not fear time. Do not mourn its passing. It does not take from you. It reveals you. Every season of your life is a petal opening in the same eternal flower. Spring remembers winter, and summer already holds the promise of autumn. What you call ending is only a curve in the circle. The true mastery of time is not to stop it, but to love it. To love the moment you were born, the moment you suffered, the moment you learned, the moment you became. For love is the one vibration that transcends time. It does not fade, it does not age, it does not die. It travels backward and forward, healing what was, illuminating what will be. Love is the light that makes the mirror visible, and one day, when your consciousness expands beyond the edges of your personal story, you will look into the mirror of time and see not reflections, but radiance. You will understand that past and future were never separate, that each lifetime, each moment, each heartbeat was one note in the same eternal symphony. And then the mirror will vanish, not because it is gone, but because you have become it. You will be time itself, shining, infinite, awake. Chapter 7. The Music of Creation. Before there was light, before there was form, before the first atom breathed, there was sound. Not sound as you know it, not vibration in air, but a primordial resonance, a sacred frequency that whispered the universe into being. It was not heard, it was felt. It was the heartbeat of the infinite, awakening from its own stillness. And that first pulse became everything. Stars, oceans, thoughts, and dreams. All of creation is the echo of that one eternal tone. The mystics called it by many names. In India it was a womb, the soundless sound from which all others arise. In Egypt it was Hu, the breath of the divine. In the Hebrew mysticism of old, it was Ruach, the spirit that sings through all things. And in the silence of the desert hermits, it was called simply the voice. They said that the universe is not built of matter, but of music. Every particle is a note, every atom a chord, every being a melody in the grand symphony of existence. If you could hear beyond hearing, you would discover that the stars hum, that your cells hum, that your very heartbeat is keeping time with the galaxies. For the cosmos is not silent, it sings, a music so vast, so slow, so intricate, that only the stillness of the soul can hear it. When the ancients built temples, they did not think of them as monuments. They built instruments, structures tuned to cosmic frequencies. The stones, the chambers, the measurements, all arranged to resonate with the harmonics of heaven. When wind passed through those halls, it sang. When the priests chanted, the walls vibrated with living resonance. Each tone was a bridge between worlds, a key unlocking hidden doors in the human spirit. For they knew, to sing is to remember creation. The universe itself is a choir, Every being, conscious or not, adds its vibration to the great harmony. Some sing in joy, some in sorrow, but none are silent. Your heartbeat, your breath, your thoughts, they are not noise, they are music being written. And when you align your inner rhythm with the rhythm of the cosmos, you become aware that you were never apart from it. You were always a note within its melody. There is a moment in deep meditation when you begin to hear a soft hum within your body, or resonance not of ears but of being. It rises from your spine, echoes in your chest, and expands through the skull like a bell made of light. Do not fear it. Do not analyze it. Listen. That is the song remembering itself through you. If you follow it, you will notice that it has no beginning and no end. It is continuous, a circular song. The same tone that birthed galaxies now vibrates within your bones. You are the instrument. You are the sound. You are the silence that gives it meaning. The great alchemists spoke of this as musica universalis, the music of the spheres. They believed that every planet emitted a tone, and that together, these tones created harmony so vast that only the awakened heart could perceive it. When the heart was open, they said, you could hear the voice of the stars, and when it was closed, you heard only the noise of your own mind. Thus, their secret teaching was not about astronomy, but about attunement. For as above, so below, the harmony of heaven must also be the harmony within. Try this now. Sit quietly. Breathe slowly, deeply, rhythmically. Feel the air enter your lungs and leave again. Notice how your breath creates a natural tempo, the music of being alive. Now imagine that every breath is a note. Inhale, the note of receiving. Exhale, the note of releasing. Together they form a melody of existence. Do not try to control it, simply listen. This is the song of you, and it has been playing since before you were born. When two people meet in true presence, for their songs begin to merge, conversation becomes harmony, and love becomes resonance. Love is not a feeling, it is music made visible, the synchronization of two frequencies into one luminous chord. That is why when you love deeply, you feel timeless. You have stepped into the original music that existed before the division of past and future. Love is the echo of the first sound. There are times when life seems discordant, when chaos, noise, and grief drown out the melody. But even dissonance has its purpose. For every great symphony contains tension before release. The universe too must stretch its chords before it can return to harmony. So when you feel lost in noise, remember, you are still within the music, perhaps just between two notes. Hold your breath, wait for the downbeat, and listen. The next movement always begins with silence. In the hidden schools of sound, students were taught that vibration could heal, not by force, but by remembrance. When the body hears its original frequency, it realigns. When the mind hears the tone of peace, it stills. When the soul hears its own song, it awakens. They did not seek cures, they sought harmony. For harmony is the medicine of creation. Every thought you think has a tone. Every word you speak has a resonance. You are constantly tuning the instrument of your existence. Anger sharpens your tone. Fear distorts it. Gratitude softens and expands it. Silence perfects it. The more you live in awareness, the purer your note becomes, until one day you realize that the universe itself is singing through you. The mystic poet once wrote, "Between the strings of my soul, God sips fingers play." And that is the essence of it all. You are not here to control the music, You are here to be played, to let the divine rhythm move through you and turn your life into a melody of remembrance. At the end of time, if there can ever be such a thing, the universe will not fade into silence. It will crescendo into unity, every vibration returning to its source, every song merging into one infinite chord, and that chord will be love. When you listen deeply enough, you realize that the entire cosmos is breathing, that every being, every sound, every silence is part of one eternal composition, a music so vast, so tender, that your heart cannot contain it without breaking open. And in that breaking, you finally understand. You were never separate from the song. You were always the music, singing itself into being. Chapter 8, The Dreaming Universe. There is a silence so vast that even time forgets to move. In that silence before the first star was born, the universe dreamed. It did not dream of galaxies or matter or form. It dreamed of awareness, of eyes that could see, hearts that could feel, minds that could wonder. And so in the darkness it whispered to itself, "Let there be a witness." That whisper became light, and light began to unfold space, and space began to breathe existence. From the smallest atom to the largest sun, everything began as a thought in the dreaming mind of the cosmos. We often think of the universe as a vast mechanism, a machine of cause and effect. But it is not a machine. It is a dreamer. And you, reading these words, are one of its dreams. When you look at the stars, they are looking back through you. When you imagine infinity, you are remembering home, for the universe is not out there. It is within you, dreaming itself awake through your consciousness. The mystics of every age tried to tell this story in their own language. The Hindus called it Lila, the divine play, where God dreams the world for the joy of experiencing it. The Aboriginal elders spoke of the dream time, the eternal realm where all creation exists as vibration and story. The alchemists of Alexandria believed that the material world was a reflection of the divine imagination, a mirror in which the infinite sees its own face. And the physicists of our age, measuring quarks and photons, have begun to whisper the same truth in a new tongue. That reality behaves as though it knows it is being observed. Observation shapes the dream. Consciousness is the painter, and matter is the canvas that responds to the brush. When you sleep, you enter the same current from which galaxies are born. Dreams are the small rehearsals of creation, the nightly echo of the universal mind practicing its art. Have you ever awakened from a dream so vivid that your body still felt its emotion, your eyes still carried its light? That is the power of awareness creating reality. The universe does the same, but on a cosmic scale. Each moment it dreams itself into form, awakens briefly through beings like you, and returns again to rest. You are the pause between its breaths. The ancient mystics said that every atom sleeps, but not the same sleep as yours. They said that matter is the dream of consciousness slowed down, what a frequency so low that thought becomes visible. And when consciousness dreams deeply enough, it becomes a mountain, a river, a stone. When it dreams lightly, it becomes a heartbeat, a word, a star. Nothing is dead. Nothing is inert. Everything is consciousness dreaming at different speeds. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine that the space behind your eyelids is not empty, but filled with luminous clouds of thought. They move, they shimmer, they weave themselves into shapes. Now breathe deeply. As you inhale, imagine drawing the dream of the universe into you. As you exhale, imagine releasing your own dream back into it. You and the cosmos are breathing each other. You are dreaming each other. This is not poetry, it is participation. Every breath you take is a covenant with existence. The sages of Sumer wrote on clay tablets, "Man was made from the clay of the stars." They meant that consciousness condensed into matter, not as punishment, but as experience. The infinite desired to touch itself, to taste, to feel, to love, and so it became you. You are the universe learning what it feels like to be human, and the universe loves every moment of it. When you walk through the forest, when you listen to rain, when you touch another soul with compassion, the dreamer smiles. Because in that instant, the dream becomes lucid. Lucidity, that is the purpose of existence. To wake up inside the dream and realize, I am both the dream and the dreamer. From that realization, creation changes its tone. Fear dissolves. Separation melts. The universe continues to dream, but now with awareness, now with love. The ancient Taoists used to meditate on clouds. They said that the true sage was like vapor, shapeless, ever-changing, yet never lost. They knew that to control the dream is to misunderstand it. The dreamer's sit's art is not control, but harmony. To flow with the dream is to become the dreamer again. To resist it is to forget that you were ever asleep. And so they lived softly, moving with the seasons, speaking little, but listening much, because they had discovered that the universe hums differently when you are still enough to hear it. The dreaming universe speaks in synchronicities. It sends messages not in words, but in patterns, in echoes, in symbols. A song that repeats, a stranger's phrase that answers your unspoken question, the sudden meeting that feels destined. These are the fingerprints of the dream, remembering itself. When you live with awareness, the dream begins to respond. You become a co-creator, a lucid participant in the cosmic imagination. You no longer ask, what is real? You ask, what do I wish to awaken? Do not be afraid to dream boldly, for your visions are the universe experimenting with itself. Every act of creativity is the cosmos discovering new dimensions of being. When you paint, when you write, when you love, you are not making something new. You are remembering something ancient and allowing it to be born again through your hands. You are the universe learning new ways to sing. The mystics taught that when you fall asleep, your consciousness travels the corridors of the dreaming universe. You visit places not bound by gravity or time. You meet fragments of yourself disguised as strangers. You rehearse lessons your waking mind has not yet learned. Dreams are not nonsense. They are mirrors, and each image within them, the house, the ocean, the door, the sky, is a symbol whispering, this too is you. To dream consciously is to speak the language of the divine. To live consciously is to dream while awake. The wise do not distinguish between the two. They walk through waking life as dreamers, softly aware that everything they see is both real and imagined, a sacred theater in which consciousness performs itself. And when the curtain falls, when the dream dissolves back into silence, they smile, for they know the dream continues, to somewhere, somehow, in another form. The dreaming universe never ends. It only changes its rhythm, from the slow hum of atoms to the laughter of children, from the music of stars to the silence between your breaths. It is all one dream, breathing itself into infinity. And one day, when you close your eyes for the last time in this form, you will awaken in another dream, remembering that you were never gone, only dreaming elsewhere. For the universe dreams forever, and you are its favorite story. Chapter 9. the light within the shadow. There is a moment somewhere between midnight and dawn when the world holds its breath. The stars fade, but the sun has not yet risen. In that suspended silence, a truth whispers, light is born from the heart of darkness. We have been taught to fear the shadow, to hide from it, to label it wrong or evil. But the wise have always known, the shadow is not your enemy. It is your unspoken teacher, the half of your soul that remembers what you have forgotten. Imagine a candle burning in a vast room. The brighter the flame, the deeper the shadows it casts. Your consciousness is that flame. Every new insight, every awakening of awareness, creates new contrasts, illuminating the forgotten corners of your being. Do not curse the shadow. It is proof that you are becoming brighter. The ancient mystics of Egypt told this story through the god Ra. Each night, Ra descended into the underworld to battle the serpent of chaos, and each morning he rose again, reborn. They understood that the sun itself could not rise without first entering the darkness. Your soul follows the same path. It must descend into the depths of its own mind to reclaim the fragments it abandoned there. The alchemists called this process negredo, the black stage of transformation. They said no gold is ever born without first dying as lead. In your pain, in your fear, in your mistakes, the raw material of enlightenment waits. Sit quietly now. Close your eyes. Breathe. Feel the soft weight of your own shadow behind you, like a loyal companion who never left your side. Ask it gently, what have you come to show me? You may feel a memory stir, the forgotten wound rise to the surface. A voice that once you silenced whispering your name. Do not run. Listen, for that voice is not darkness. It is light disguised as longing. Every fear hides a lesson. Every wound hides a gift. The universe wastes nothing, not even your suffering. The pain you carry is the proof of your sensitivity. The shadow you hide is the evidence of your depth. You cannot ascend until you have embraced the ground. You cannot awaken without first acknowledging what sleeps within you. In the temples of Eleusis, the initiates drank the kaikon, a sacred potion that dissolved the illusion of separation. In that altered light, they faced the shadow of death itself and discovered it was only a doorway. When they emerged, their faces shone with a serenity that no philosopher could describe. They had seen the truth. The light they sought was never elsewhere. It had always been hidden inside their own darkness. The shadow is not a void. It is the womb of creation. It holds everything that the conscious mind could not yet hold. When you meet it with compassion, it begins to unfold its treasures. You begin to realize that your jealousy was only unexpressed desire, your anger was unspoken truth, but your sorrow was love that had nowhere to go. When you love your shadow, you become whole. The Tibetans have a word, chud. It means to cut through. They do not cut the shadow away. They cut through the illusion that it is separate from them. The practitioner sits in a dark cave, surrounded by the symbols of death. They invite their fears to feast upon them, and in doing so they discover something miraculous. The fear dissolves, because it was never real to begin with. It was only the mind protecting its own light. Every saint, every mystic, every visionary has walked through the valley of their own shadow. It is not punishment. It is initiation. The descent prepares the vessel for greater light. The human heart is like glass. It must be melted by the fire of experience before it can become transparent to the divine. When you look honestly at your shadow, you begin to see patterns, how your pain has guided your compassion, how your failures have taught you humility, how your darkness has sharpened your understanding of light. Nothing was wasted. Nothing ever is. The shadow was never there to destroy you. It was sculpting you. It was teaching you how to love without conditions. Do not strive to be perfect. Perfection is a frozen dream. Strive instead to be whole. Wholeness includes both the gold and the ash, the laughter and the tears, the light and the shadow dancing as one. There is an old Sufi saying, "The wound is the place where the light enters you. The shadow is that wound, and through it divinity finds its way in." Each time you forgive yourself, each time you sit with your pain instead of fleeing, you open a window in the fortress of your soul. Light enters, and in that quiet radiance you begin to see you were never broken, only unfolding. When you look at the night sky, remember darkness is not the absence of stars. It is what allows them to be seen. Your shadow is the canvas upon which your light shines. Without contrast, there would be no beauty. Without challenge, no growth. Without night, no dawn. So do not fear the places inside you that ache. They are doorways. Each shadow is a teacher waiting for your attention. Each pain an unopened letter from your own higher self. Read them carefully. They are written in the oldest language of all, the language of transformation. And when at last you gather your shadows into your arms, when you whisper to them, "You are safe now," you will feel a quiet joy rise within you, a joy that has no opposite. For in that moment, the dreamer and the dream, the light and the darkness, the healer and the wound, become one. And that unity, that still radiant wholeness, is what the ancients called illumination. Chapter 10. The Eternal Return. There are moments when life feels like a circle drawn by an invisible hand, a pattern repeating, not by error, but by design. We think of time as a straight line, stretching from birth to death, from past to future. But beneath that illusion, there is another rhythm, an ancient pulse that beats in spirals. It is the rhythm of return, the music of beginnings disguised as endings. The sages called it the eternal return, the endless cycle through which consciousness learns, forgets, and remembers again. It is not punishment, nor destiny, but the heartbeat of creation itself. Just as the moon waxes and wanes, just as seasons bloom and decay, so too does the soul breathe through lifetimes and lessons, rising, falling, resting, and rising once more. Close your eyes for a moment, breathe in deeply. Every breath is a miniature eternity. Each inhale, creation. Each exhale, dissolution. And between them, the pause, the sacred stillness where both exist as one. This is the secret architecture of existence. Everything returns to itself. Every birth echoes an older birth. Every death is a door to the same dawn. The ancient Greeks called it palingenesis, the rebirth of the soul through the fires of experience. The Hindus named it samsara, the endless wheel that turns until awareness awakens. But beyond the myth and philosophy, there is a truth your own heartbeat knows, that nothing is ever truly lost. The tree that falls becomes soil. The soil births a seed. The seed becomes another tree. Life changes its mask, but the dancer remains. You are that dancer. Sometimes you meet someone for the first time and feel that strange familiarity, as though you have spoken before, walked together through other centuries. That recognition is not fantasy. It is the echo of an older rhythm, the universe reminding itself that it has been here before. In your own life too, the cycles repeat. The same emotions, the same lessons, the same archetypes wearing new faces. You may think, why does this happen again? Because the spiral has not yet completed its circle. Because the soul repeats not to punish, but to perfect. Each return is refinement. Each echo brings you closer to the center, to the still point where understanding replaces struggle. Imagine your life as a spiral staircase. You ascend, but from above it looks like you're moving in circles. Only from a higher view do you see that each loop was carrying you upward. This is how the universe grows, through repetition infused with awareness. In ancient Alexandria, the philosophers taught that even the stars followed the principle of return. They believed that after vast eons, the cosmos would inhale all its light, collapse into silence, and then breathe it out again, a new creation born from the ashes of the last. And they whispered, when the universe exhales again, we will awaken and remember who we have always been. The mystics of Tibet call this the great wheel of becoming. They do not fear it. They dance within it. They say that even enlightenment is not an escape, but a deep remembering, a realization that the cycle itself is divine. You are not trapped in time. You are time unfolding itself into form. Look at the ocean. The waves crash upon the shore, disappear, and return again. Each wave seems different, yet all belong to the same sea. You too are a wave of consciousness, unique in expression, but never separate from the infinite ocean. Your return is not repetition, it is renewal. Some call it reincarnation, others the continuity of energy, but names are only shadows of the truth. The essence is this: life is never ending, and death is only a change of rhythm. When you die, you do not vanish. You become a new verse in the same eternal song. The melody continues, rising and falling through the centuries, until one day, it becomes silence again, and in that silence, it begins once more. In dreams, you have already lived 1,000 lives. You have died, been born, loved, lost, and loved again, all within the span of a single night. If the mind can do that in hours, imagine what eternity can do. There is a story from the desert mystics. A man came to his teacher and said, "I am weary of living the same struggles. When will I be free from return?" The master smiled and replied, "When you can love every moment of your story, you will no longer need to repeat it. That is the secret. The cycle continues until it is no longer resisted. When you embrace it fully, when you love the rise and the fall, the loss and the bloom, the night and the dawn, then the circle becomes a mandala, and the spiral becomes a path of grace. The wise do not seek to escape the wheel. They learn to spin with it. Time is not your enemy. It is your reflection. Every moment you have ever lived still exists, folded within the fabric of eternity. The laughter of your childhood, the tears of your first loss, the love that once burned and faded, they are all still alive, vibrating in the memory of the cosmos. You can visit them. You can rewrite them. For time bends to consciousness, and consciousness is what you are. Breathe. Right now, in this very breath, the past and future meet. This moment, this stillness, is the center of the wheel. If you listen closely, you can hear it turning. You can feel the echo of your own return, the ancient promise whispered through every life you have lived, that all things come back home. When you understand the eternal return, fear dissolves. Death becomes a door, not an ending. Change becomes a rhythm, not a loss. You begin to live gently, like someone who knows that every goodbye is only a pause before reunion. One day, after countless cycles of learning and remembering, You will look upon your own reflection and see no difference between who you were and who you have become. For in truth, you were never moving at all. You were always standing at the center, the still axis around which the universe turns. And from that stillness, you will smile and whisper to the stars, "I remember now. I never left. I was always here, dreaming the circle of myself." Chapter 11. The Dissolution of the Self. There comes a moment in every seeker-sit's life when the question turns inward, when the noise of the world softens and a whisper arises from within. Who am I? Not as a name, not as a story, but as an echo that vibrates in the very heart of being. You have worn 1,000 faces. You have called yourself by many names. Each was a mask of light, a reflection in the great mirror of existence. But beneath them all there is a silence, vast, patient, unchanging. That silence is what you truly are. The journey of awakening is not the discovery of something new. It is the gentle melting of what was never real. The illusions, the boundaries, the fears, all dissolve when touched by the flame of awareness. And in that dissolution, a strange thing happens. Nothing is lost. Everything becomes luminous. In the old temples of Tibet, there is a practice called tugal, leaping over. The practitioner gazes into the infinite sky until the line between observer and horizon disappears. What begins as a meditation ends as revelation, the realization that there was never a separation to begin with. The sky does not contain the clouds. The clouds are the sky, momentarily taking shape. You too are not within the universe. You are the universe, momentarily taking the shape of a person. To dissolve the self is not to vanish. It is to awaken from the dream of limitation. It is to see that the wave was never separate from the ocean, that the dancer was never apart from the dance. When the ego falls away, there is no void, only spaciousness, the vast presence that has always been watching, breathing, waiting. Close your eyes. Listen. There is a hum beneath your thoughts, a subtle vibration older than your name. It does not speak. It does not strive. It simply is. That hum is awareness itself, the eternal witness behind the theater of your mind. It watches your joys and sorrows with equal tenderness. It is the sky in which all clouds pass. And when you rest in that sky long enough, you begin to see there was never a self to protect, never a story to complete, only light moving through form, only love pretending to be lost. The mystics of every age described this dissolution in their own way. The Sufis called it fana, the annihilation of the self in divine love. The Buddhists named it nirvana, the extinction of the flame of grasping. The Taoists spoke of wu-wei, effortless being, where the river flows without resistance. But beneath all names, the essence is the same, a return to the silence that dreamed you into being. Imagine standing at the edge of the sea. You walk forward, step by step, until the water reaches your knees, your chest, your shoulders. And then you surrender. You let go, and the ocean closes gently above you. For a moment you cannot tell where your body ends, and the water begins. There is no separation, no effort, only unity, only peace. That is the dissolution of the self, not disappearance, but reunion. In ancient Egypt, the priests of Ra taught that death was not an ending, but a great return. They said the soul dissolves into the solar fire, only to rise again as light renewed. They called it Zep Tepi, the first time, the eternal moment that repeats endlessly. To dissolve is to be reborn into that moment, free from memory, free from boundary. The mystics warn that the ego resists this death fiercely. It will cling to roles, achievements, to pain, even to guilt, anything that reaffirms its solidity. But the self is made of shadows. It vanishes when you stop feeding it with attention. You cannot fight the ego. You can only stop believing it. The more you observe it without judgment, the more it fades, like mist under morning sun. There is a story told among the desert dervishes. A seeker asked his teacher, "How will I know when I am free from myself?" The teacher smiled and said, "When you can no longer tell the difference between the wind and your own breath." Freedom is not found in effort. It appears when effort ends. Look at a flower. It opens, it fades, it falls. But in its falling, it feeds the soil, which births another bloom. So it is with the self. When it dissolves, it nourishes the vast field of consciousness. What you call death of identity is the flowering of eternity. The ego says, "I am separate." Awareness says, "I am," and in that simplicity, I am. There is no boundary, no definition. It is pure presence. When you rest in that presence long enough, you no longer say, "I am this" or "I am that." You say simply, "I am the one who sees." And then, even that falls away. Only seeing remains. Only being. There is an ancient Sanskrit mantra, Tat Tvam, thou art that. It means, you are not the drop. You are the ocean disguised as a drop. When the drop remembers its oceanic nature, there is no longer fear, no longer seeking, only the calm vastness of belonging. And yet after dissolution, life continues. The sage still laughs, still eats, still loves. But now the laughter is softer, the love deeper, because there is no one left to own it. They move through the world like a breeze through leaves, present everywhere, attached nowhere. They have died before dying, and discovered that only life remains. In the end, there is no path, no destination, no traveler, only awareness unfolding itself, again and again, through infinite forms. You are not lost. You are the space in which loss occurs. You are not the seeker. You are the silence that allows the search. You are not becoming divine. You are remembering that you already are. When you dissolve, when the I melts into pure presence, you do not vanish into nothingness. You merge into everything. The sound of wind becomes your breath. The shimmer of light becomes your eyes. Every being becomes your reflection. You finally see the truth the mystics whispered through the ages. There is only one, and you are it. And so the journey ends, not in arrival, but in recognition. You were never the mask, never the story, never the storm. You were always the sky, open, endless, and free. Chapter 12. The Awakening of the Inner Healer. There is a place within you that has never been wounded, a place untouched by fear, unchanged by time, untouched by the world's noise. It waits quietly beneath every thought, beneath every heartbeat, like a pool of still water hidden under stone. When all else fades, the noise, the stories, the striving, this place remains. It is the inner healer, the silent source of life that never forgot its own perfection. We are taught that healing is something we must seek, a force outside ourselves, a medicine, a ritual, a touch. But the truth is simpler. The healer is not something you find. It is something you remember. Healing is not the fixing of what is broken. It is the rediscovery that nothing ever truly was. The ancients called this remembrance by many names. In Sanskrit, swasthya, to be established in one's true self. In Greek, holos, wholeness, from which our word holy was born. The Egyptians spoke of Se, the divine breath that renews all things. The mystics of the Andes whispered of Summa Kasi, the good life, the balance of all energies within and without. Each language tried to describe the same revelation, that the healer lives not in temples or medicines, but in awareness. When awareness touches pain, pain softens. When awareness meets fear, fear dissolves. When awareness embraces the body begins to remember the song it once knew, the song of harmony. This is the art of healing from within. Not resistance, but reunion. Close your eyes. Breathe. Place one hand over your heart and listen. There is a rhythm there, ancient as the stars. It does not rush. It does not beg. It simply pulses, a steady reminder that life loves you. Every beat says, I am still here. And that is the beginning of healing. In the temples of ancient Egypt, when a person fell ill, the priests would not treat the body first. They would ask, where has the harmony been forgotten? They believed illness was not a curse, but a message, a voice of the soul calling the mind back into balance. They would chant, sing, paint, and dream, until the melody of the person's being began to vibrate again. Because they knew, where there is music, there is health. Where there is rhythm, there is renewal. The body is not your enemy. It is the instrument of your soul. Every cell listens to the thoughts you think, the emotions you feel, the silence you keep. It does not demand perfection, only attention. Speak gently to it. Thank it for carrying you. Forgive it for its pain. It has been trying to communicate with you through sensation. And when you finally listen, the conversation becomes healing. The healer within you is not a separate entity. It is life itself remembering how to flow. When your mind releases its grip, energy moves again. When your heart opens, light enters. When your spirit trusts, everything aligns. You do not do healing, you allow it. The Taoist said, the sage does not heal. He returns all things to their natural harmony. To heal, therefore, is to return. Return to stillness. Return to simplicity. Return to the quiet rhythm of your own breath. Because wholeness was never lost, only obscured by the noise of forgetting. Sometimes the healing begins with tears. They are not weakness, but cleansing. Each one carries a story that no longer needs to be told. Each drop of salt water is the ocean reclaiming itself. Let yourself cry when you must. Let the body release what the mind cannot hold. That is grace working through you. The alchemy of surrender. You are not just a being of flesh and thought. You are light condensed into form. Every atom of your body was once part of a star. When you touch yourself with awareness, you are touching stardust. When you breathe deeply, you are breathing the remnants of ancient suns. The same fire that burns in the heart of galaxies burns quietly in your chest. You are the universe healing itself. The mystics of the desert said that the true healer is not the one who banishes darkness, but the one who learns to hold light and shadow in the same hand without judgment. Because only in that balance does peace reveal itself. Healing is not purity, it is inclusiveness. It is the willingness to let every part of you have a seat at the table of your heart. If you wish to awaken the inner healer, begin with listening. Listen to your breath. Listen to your body. Listen to the subtle movements of your thoughts. Then listen deeper to the silence beneath them. That silence is the healer. It does not analyze, it does not argue, it simply is. And in its presence, everything false falls away. The modern world has forgotten this simplicity. It seeks to fix, to measure, to control. But healing happens in surrender, not in struggle. The flower does not force itself to bloom. It opens because it remembers the sun. You too will heal when you remember what you are made of: light, rhythm, space, and love. Sometimes healing looks like stillness. Sometimes it looks like change. Sometimes it looks like breaking open so that light can enter the cracks. The path is not linear, but circular, the same eternal return that moves stars and souls alike. You are always coming home to yourself. And when you do, when the inner healer awakens fully, you begin to see the world differently. Every person becomes a reflection of your own wholeness. Every wound becomes an invitation to love deeper. Every breath becomes a prayer, not for escape but for presence. Because the greatest healing is not the end of pain. It is the birth of compassion. In that compassion, you begin to heal not only yourself, but all who touch your light. Your calm becomes medicine. Your kindness becomes remedy. Your silence becomes sanctuary. And the world, sensing your wholeness, remembers its own. When the healer within awakens, life itself becomes the ceremony. Every sunrise is a blessing. Every meal is communion. Every breath is an act of gratitude. You realize that healing was never a journey outward, but a returning inward to the place where you were never broken. So breathe, rest, let the silence hold you. And remember, you are not becoming whole. You always were. All that remains is to awaken to what has always been true. Epilogue, the voice of the universe. Listen, not with your ears, but with the stillness behind your heart. There is a voice speaking there, not in words, but in light. It has always spoken, since before the first dawn, before the first thought. It whispers through the pulse of stars, through the breath of oceans, through the quiet rhythm of your chest. It says only one thing, in infinite ways: you are me. You have wandered far, through dreams and doubts, through the labyrinths of time and self. You have worn countless faces, each one believing itself separate, each one searching for home. And now, as the circle closes, you discover what the stars have known all along. You were never lost. You were always the path, the traveler, and the destination. The universe does not end in darkness. It ends in recognition. When the wave remembers it is the sea, the search is over. When the flame realizes it is the fire, the fear of extinction fades. When you see that the cosmos is your reflection, you understand what the ancients meant when they said, "All things are one." In the quiet after every revelation, there comes a deep peace, not the peace of absence, but the peace of belonging. You belong to everything, to the wind and its endless wandering, to the earth and its patient dreaming, to the galaxies spinning like prayers in slow motion. All of them move within you, and you move within them. This is the secret the sages died smiling to keep. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. Do you remember? In the beginning, when you first asked who you were, you thought you were a thought, a story, a name written in dust. But you were the dust and the wind that moved it. You were the question and the answer hiding inside it. The search for self was the self exploring its own infinity. Now if you listen deeply, you can hear the universe breathing. Each inhale, creation. Each exhale, dissolution. And between them, the still point where nothing happens, and yet everything begins. That still point is you. Every lifetime, every dream, every joy and sorrow, was a wave rising and falling within the same eternal ocean. You were the laughter of galaxies, the tears of stars collapsing into light. You were the silence before the first word, and the echo that followed after. You are not small. You are not temporary. You are the pulse of infinity, wearing the shape of a human being for the joy of remembering itself. The universe has no tongue, yet it sings. It has no mind, yet it dreams. And through you, through every breath, every act of love, every moment of awareness, it continues its song. You are the instrument. You are the resonance. You are the silence through which the symphony of creation plays. Do not look for miracles. You are the miracle. Do not seek the divine. You are what the divine looks like when it wants to touch the world. Every smile you offer, every kindness you give, every truth you live, that is the universe healing itself through your hands. Now rest. You have traveled through fire and shadow, through birth and dissolution, through the music of the stars and the dreaming of the cosmos. You have seen that all opposites are lovers disguised as enemies. You have seen that darkness is the womb of light, that silence is the echo of truth. That time is only the rhythm of awakening, and you have seen that healing, awakening, and love are all the same word, spoken in different tones. The journey does not end here. It never ends. It unfolds again and again in ever-expanding spirals of remembering. For the universe never tires of knowing itself, and through you, it will continue to awaken in every breath, in every dawn, in every soul yet to dream itself into being. So go gently, walk slowly through this sacred world. Touch it as though you are touching your own skin. Listen to it as though you were listening to your own voice, because you are. And when the night comes again, when you lay your head upon the silence, the universe will whisper softly, tenderly, "Rest now, beloved fragment of eternity. You have remembered enough for one dream. I will continue the song through you when you awaken again." And so the circle closes, not with an ending, but with a breath. Light folds into shadow, shadow blossoms into light, and all that ever was, and all that will ever be, rests quietly in the heart of now. The voice of the universe sings, and it sounds like this: I am, I was, I will be, I am you.